think that was even what blew my mind, getting to know your professional side before, and then seeing that
Yeah.
this guy has a whole lot of no, that was mind blowing. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I work with Titi on on a project, and it was interesting when we're introduced because when we're introduced, I was wondering, so who is this person that writes so well and even
Uh-huh.
has a committee of writers, and only to realize that you're the one. So that's really interesting to know, and I look forward to at least knowing about your community and how we can work together. When you're reading my profile, it looks strange a bit because I don't usually get called Adeoti. Most people just call me Tosin. So when you say Adeoti, I was thinking more about my dad because he's,
Oh,
he's, he's the one that we usually call Adeoti. But I'm glad to
I
be
did.
here, and I
Good to have you.
know that a few things that I'm going to be sharing today can pick a few things and run with them. 30 minutes. Let's see how it goes. I don't know if I'll be able to use up to 10 minutes, but like you said, let me freestyle and see how it goes. I usually like to start this kind of conversation by saying a little about myself, um, especially my upbringing. Okay, and that would dovetail to everything I'm going to be saying today. I grew up in a family of teachers. Okay. My dad was a lecturer. He's retired now, and my mom was a school teacher. At a point, she she became a headmistress and of course a principal. And so I came from a family where I was always surrounded with books, right? Books was everywhere. Okay, I mean, I remember a particular time when we had a debate in school. That was in secondary school, just a thereabout. And then I asked my dad to help me with the debate, and I remember vividly that my father looked at his bookshelf, he took down a couple of books, and then he helped me with my arguments. So when I took my arguments and we argued, the teachers were just blew away that look, how exactly did you get this? Okay, and that's to say that I started with reading books. I started with uh, a couple of people who realize the importance of education. So I'm very active on social media. One of the things that, well, on Facebook mostly. So I write a lot. I try to write as much as I can on Facebook. And I remember telling a story of how I'll come back from school and I would provide my results. And if I don't get first position, my mother will always wonder exactly how that came to be because they've imbibed into me the culture of reading and of course doing well in school. Now I'm saying this, and as I talk, I'll be bringing out some lessons that will be useful. I'm saying this by saying that as writers, we also should start looking at the people that are coming behind us. If we have children, if we have siblings that look up to us, we should cultivate a lifestyle that will imbibe into them the the culture of reading. Because as I will talk later on, reading takes a significant role in the life of any writer. In fact, I've been, there's a man that I love so much, more, and I got to know about him from his writings. His name is Thomas Sowell. Uh, he's 93 years old right now, and from the age of about 30, every year is written a book. Okay, and one thing he says is that there is no way you will want to write if you do not read, you will not be able to write. That's something that I said. And as I grew up, I realized that I like to write a bit. In fact, I remember vividly that after school, a couple of myself and some friends will actually go to newspaper stands. Okay, that time we're very involved in football, right? And so usually what we would do is to go to newspaper and have newspapers. So at that time, we had newspapers like Complete Sports, and then we'll read about it, we'll listen to argument about it. And I remember a time when I saw a column in a newspaper. He's a popular sports journalist. His name is Luminia Lau. And then he wrote something that was not compatible with. And then I decided to just reply him. Okay. That time, emails were just coming out. So I decided to reply him. And the fact that I replied back was so good to me. And then he went one step further by publishing my response in the newspaper. So when I saw it, I was blown away. I mean, I that day I made sure that the last money I had on me, I bought the newspaper so that I could show it to my friends in school. Of course, I had to welcome that day, but it was really very good to me to see that. Okay, so maybe I can write, maybe I can start writing and stuff like that. But what really helped me and made me write more and more is now the internet. Internet made it so easy, made sure that I could write and I could get instant feedback from people. And so I just started writing. Okay. Social media. At that time, I was just writing short posts talking about what I was feeling, talking about the things I was reading and stuff like that. And in fact, it was actually through the book review. So I'll read a book and then I'll review it. And from reviewing it, I got to realize other people who were excellent writers as well. Yeah. In fact, it was one of the reviews that I did that I got to know a guy called Fei Fayemi. Fei Fayemi is a Nigerian UK based. He also writes a lot. In fact, it was from his yearly book reviews that I got to realize that okay, so there are people that actually read more like me. They don't just read, but they also write about the books that I read. And that is why these days, as much as I can, any book that I read, I try to review them. You said you've been to my website. So on my website, you will see a link to my blog. It links directly to Medium. So on Medium, especially my long form posts, I get to publish them on Medium as well. But I spend more of my time on Facebook because I have quite a following on Facebook, and then I can get feedback. So those are the things that I have been able to do for some time. And then since 2019 or 2020, I've also been publishing my list of books that I've read for the year. Just talk a bit about the books, talk about what I've gained from the books. And then I now publish a list of books that I want to read for the new year. Okay, that has helped. So what that did to me, in fact, one of the books that you mentioned is Beyond Profit. So what happened was I had published a book. I had published an article on economic development thereabout, and then the chairman of one of the biggest financial institutions in Nigeria just told me that I really liked it and can they publish it on their website. So they published it, and then he mentioned that they got a lot of traffic on their website. And of course, we became friends on Facebook. And then there was a time when I commented on his post about some stuff. And I was just wondering how come people in your company get to last long. So we have 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. What exactly did you do? And then he sent me a message on Facebook saying that if there's anybody who wants to write his company biography, he thinks I'm the one. Okay. And then we got to work. And for the next 2 years, 3 years, we're writing that book. Now, it took that long because there were a lot of back and forth. Okay, so I needed to interview over 100 people for that book. And so that took an enormous amount of work. And of course, we get to the editor. There's some things that they needed to do. Because mainly, I've gotten to discover that writing is less of writing and more of rewriting. Okay? Especially if you're writing long books, because you need to factually correct what you have. You realize that your first draft is not good enough. You need to write it better and better and better and better. And so even the process of writing the book might take less time than the process of rewriting the book. My latest book is Act of the Arguments. And one thing I did was to start reading it again. And then I realized that, okay, so there are some places I should have written well. And it's the course of the writer. Writing and then realizing that, okay, I should have written better in this space. I should have written better in this space. You know, when people say that when they have interviews like this, that they don't like to watch themselves, I think that that should not apply to the writer. The writer should constantly all be reading his work, seeing where it can improve and how it can even add more to the conversation. Those are some of the things that will actually help the person, because by reading your work, you get to realize that maybe I should have done better here. Maybe I should have done better here. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of prefer Facebook. Okay, because on Facebook I can write long forms. Okay, well, you can do that on Twitter, but on Facebook you don't have to pay. Okay, so that's one benefit of writing on Facebook. And most of the time when I write long form, I get to realize that there are some things that I need to write better. So if you go to my articles on Facebook, you realize that there's a lot, there's an edit history. Okay, because I'm editing this page. Okay, I didn't do it well. I need to do it better. You know, and one of the things that I get to realize as a writer is that some of the things that you think are very good, that you think are excellent, that you think that people will respond to, many of them will not be responded to as you want. Okay. And it is some of those things that you think that, one of those things, I mean, just write, just to write. And then it surprises you how much people really love it. One of the biggest articles that I've written this year was a biography of a man called Dr. Goodman. I think Goodman. He's a scientist who died around September period. And so what I had done was, somebody at the New York Times had been given the assignment to write the biography of the person. So he contacted me to write on his behalf. So it's called ghostwriting. Now I do a lot of ghostwriting a lot. Okay, so he contacted me to write the biography on his behalf. So now I've done ghostwriting on New York Times, on Wall Street Journal, and The Economist, simply because people have just seen the things that I've done online. And now let me digress a bit. One of the things that any good writer should always do is to always be putting his ideas out there. You should always. I mean, there are a lot more people that I think should write than are writing. And how do I know? So I go on Twitter, I go on LinkedIn, and I see them put comments on people's posts. And those comments are not just random comments; they are thoughtful comments. Okay, many of them are two paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, and then you read the insights in those comments, and you realize that okay, so if this person could just fleshing out a bit what he has provided, do a little more research, expand on certain points. This is just a blog post, okay? And I see that all the time on Facebook. But you ask them, look, I would like to read more, and say, no, I don't know how to write. Okay, that's already a limiting factor. Okay, personally, I believe that everybody can write. Okay, all it takes is just for you to try writing. And one of the things that I try to do with so right now I have three girls. One of the things that I try to do with my eldest daughter, so I have three girls. So my eldest daughter is about 6 years old, and now she likes reading. So obviously, because everywhere in the house there are bookshelves. One of the other things I also try to do in the house is to make sure that we have books scattered all over the house. Okay, so you have books in the living room, you have books in the dining, you have books in their rooms. So it kind of gives them the idea that reading is important. One of the things that I tell them, because kids will always be kids, one of the things that I tell them, especially when they get to be rough with books, I always tell them that books are important. So right now, when they do things with their books, I remind them and they tell me back that books are important. Okay. So that's just a digress. Now, I was talking about how people can actually write. Okay, so I was saying that, okay, I got there by talking about my daughter, saying that now when she reads, I also tell her to write the things that she has read. Okay. Very rough right now, but I mean, the ideas are there. And that is to say that sometimes we think that the things that we have in mind are not worth sending out there. But usually that is our own bias. We are always biased to our work. And that is not necessarily true with other people. And I always say that there are certain things that we think we know, that is general knowledge, that is not general knowledge. One of the best received articles that I wrote last year, 2022, was an incident that happened on the phone. So I was on the phone, and it was one of the VTCs. I mean, you know what VTCs means, right? So I called, so the person called to say, so this report that you have to send, I don't understand what it means. And then on the call, suddenly she screamed, okay? And then the phone went off. So I was very worried what exactly happened. Why did she just scream on the phone? And when she came back, she mentioned that she was talking while she was frying plantain. And you know, she now said, look, so why do you think I poured plantain inside hot water, inside boiling oil, and the thing just splashed? And of course, you know what I mean? So I have many interests, right? I'm an engineer. Obviously, I've done physics, chemistry, and biology. I'm very much interested in psychology. I love philosophy a lot. So I read widely. So, I mean, she just mentioned, because she's just on WhatsApp, and most of the articles that I write, I also put them on WhatsApp to say, look, this is a link to, right, read what I have written. So she mentioned that, why is it that this happened? Why do I need to just put plantain in boiling oil and then the thing just splashed? And then I wrote about it, about density, how it relates to life, because for any engineering student, you realize that physics is very applicable to life. Okay? I mean, all the things that, I mean, it can look abstract, but when you really look at it, physics is everywhere. You know, so I wrote about it, and I was amazed at the reception it got. You know, and I mean, what people were commenting, I was wondering, but this is common knowledge. Everybody knows about density. Everybody knows that the density between oil and water are different. So it really shouldn't be a big deal. But over and over again, I've gotten to realize that the things that we think are common knowledge are really not common knowledge. So it is just left for us to put it out there. The experiences that we think are just normal experiences are experiences that people look at and just they are amazed. So recently I was in Rwanda, and what I did was write about my experience in Kigali, you know, just talk normally about what I experienced, what I observed, the conversation I had with the locals, and then I published it. And right now, I have somebody who is telling me that can he sponsor my trip to Seychelles so that I can write for their magazine. You know, simply because I wrote about my experience, and that is what writing does to you. There are some contacts that I have had right now that I would never have gotten simply if I had not written. Okay, there are some places that I've been to right now. So, in fact, I really have an ongoing ghostwriting job right now, simply because uh, after I wrote Beyond Profits, you know, it was for a big organization. So the person introduced me to another person. Then I've been getting constant job over and over and over and over and over and over, simply because I was just putting my ideas out. Okay, and that brings me to the point of saying that sometimes we don't put our things out there because we're limiting ourselves to what counts. Okay, some good things that look for you to put things out there, you need to have a certain word count. So if you don't have that word count, then it's probably not good enough. But that is not true. I mean, there are different kind of ideas that you can put into pen and paper, and it is just sometimes it's just one paragraph that people can relate with, and that just sparks it for them. Okay, sometimes you need to write 500 words, sometimes you need to write 1,000 words, sometimes you need to write 2,000 words, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is that you write. Sometimes I I feel like I don't feel like writing, but then I start writing, and then I think that I should write just 500 words, because one of the things that I try to do is I try to write everything, no matter what how busy I am. I try to write every day, and that's why Facebook is very important to me, because what tends to happen with Facebook is that I can have something on draft. So there's a thing about draft on Facebook. So you can put things there, and then sometimes you can just say you are writing to yourself. You can put the privacy only to yourself. And I do that a lot. So I have an idea that I think I should develop, and then I quickly write it down on that draft, and then I can develop it later. So once I develop it later, I can now open it up to everybody who might be interested in doing that. And so it's important that you don't limit yourself by what can. Some people think that, look, if I don't have the ideas of writing 1,000 words, then maybe I should not write. But it really doesn't matter. And sometimes it is not until we establish ourselves and say, I really have to write today, that we start getting the ideas to write. Sometimes it is after you've written those 2 paragraphs that you now start thinking about things you should write. So it happens to me a lot to say that. So I'm writing something, and then I think about something that I've written, and that sparks the interest in doing research. Yeah, so I go online, I do research, and then I realize that, oh, okay, so now I can even write more. And sometimes what tends to happen is that you are already writing, okay, and then you start remembering the things that you read, the ideas that you have in your mind. And that is the same, and that is the thing with reading. What reading does to you is that reading stores knowledge in your mind. Okay, they can be totally unrelated. Okay, but it is at the point where you are reading and you are writing that those ideas start coming to your mind. In fact, one of the things that I've realized, especially when I have writer's block, so I think everybody has writer's block. Well, as many people as I've spoken with, they talk about having writer's block. But one of the quickest ways that I've been able to overcome writer's block is to just simply go and read. Sometimes I read my own articles. Sometimes I read articles of people that I really respect. And sometimes I just pick up books and start reading them. Okay. And then I start having ideas on my own. Okay. And they can be totally unrelated to what you think you can write. But just simply writing about that thing just sparks an idea. So today I wrote about the ongoing conflict in Israel and in Gaza. So it's between Palestine and Israel. And what brought about that, I was simply thinking about a conversation that I had with someone who asked me why exactly I'm not writing about the tactics of Hamas. Okay. And then I decided to now read a little more about, okay, what exactly is even happening today. And from there, I developed an idea to actually write something. Okay. And that's to say that, again, if you want to be a good writer, you can't discount the place of reading. Okay, because reading tends to stimulate the mind on the things that you should pay attention to and the things that you should read. Now, what I have provided right now are just overviews, but how exactly can you make it procedural? How exactly can you have laid down plans on how to write? And I start by saying that it starts with the mindset, to saying that if you want to write, to be a writer, you obviously need to write. Okay. You can't say you're a writer and then you keep procrastinating and procrastinating. It's an action word. A writer writes. Okay. The same way a driver drives. You can spend 10 years in the driving school learning about the theory, learning about how to write, learning about simulation. But it is until you get to the driving seat of the car and actually move it that you really know how to drive. So a writer writes. That's the first thing. You need the mindset of saying that a writer, I mean, it's just like, so people treat writing as a hobby, which obviously it is for many people. But one of the things I'm going to realize is that for you to be good at something, you necessarily don't need to want to do it at that point. For instance, we go to work all the time. It is not every time we wake up that we feel like going to work. But obviously, we stand up from our bed and we go to work. Even people who work remotely, it's not every time they want to get on their system and start working. Okay, it's a mindset of saying, I need to work and I have to work. That's the first thing. That mindset is very important. And then the second thing is that you need to know yourself. For me, I'm an early riser. Okay. In fact, most days I try to sleep by around 9 o'clock, and then I wake up around 4 o'clock. Okay. Because when I wake up, the creative juice of writing just flows. Okay. And that's what everybody needs to know, when is the best time for them to write. Okay. I know a person that uh, when that person likes to write is in the night. When everybody's sleeping, he can concentrate and then he can write. For me, I like to write in the morning. Okay. In fact, some of the things that I put on social media, they are things that I write early in the morning and then I schedule. And that's one of the things that I like about Facebook. So you can schedule your posts, you can put them at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 30 p.m. You know, you can schedule them. And most of those things, I write them in the early hours of the day. And then I just write. Okay. And that's why it's important for people to know where exactly they are most active. Okay. Another thing that I try to do is I try to, especially when I'm writing a book. So right now I'm writing a book on the histories of Africa, of Asian African kingdoms. I mean, very, very, very interesting. Okay, I realized that a lot of the books that we have right now talk about kingdoms in Europe, talks about kingdoms and dynasties in Asia. But I've got to realize that Africa has a lot of fantastic and fascinating kingdoms that a lot of people do not know. So what I'm doing now is to see how I can write that. I'm far gone there. I hope I'll be able to complete it the first quarter of next year. And it has to do with you saying that. So I have planned to write a book. Okay, where do I even start? So many people want to write books and then they just start writing. They just start thinking about, they just start writing based on the inspiration that they have. I think, personally, I think that is the wrong way to do it. I think that if you want to write a book, if you want to write, of course, I'm talking to people who want to write books there. If you want to write a book, you need to have an outline. Okay, have an outline of what you want to write. Ask yourself, so this book that I want to write, what are the themes that I'm going to be talking about in these books? Okay, so you want to write about Lagos, for example. You need to ask yourself, so I need to think about Lagos as a clash of cultures. I need to write about Lagos, the people. I need to write Lagos, the history. Now ask yourself, so these are the themes that I need to write about. And then you can now start thinking about, so in terms of the chapters, so I know that I'm probably going more than my time, but you need to also help me know how many minutes I have so I don't overshoot my time.
No, yeah, Mr. Tosin, you are good. You are dropping the gems. You are good.
All right, good. So now you now need to now do your outline and say, what are the things that I'm going to be writing about? Okay, because what that does to you now is that it frames the mind, it frames the brain into compartmentalizing the problems. And then you can now concentrate whether you're gonna do chapter 1 or chapter 2. I mean, there are different kind of books. There are some books that the chapters are not very linked. Okay, so you can take chapter 2, read chapter 5, and then go to chapter 6. Some are chronological. You need to start from chapter 1 and then go all the way to. So you need to determine that. You need to plan. You need to start with the end in mind to say how many chapters do I want to write, and then provide that outline. Because what that does to you now is that sometimes you feel like you're working in chapter one, sometimes you feel like working on chapter five, depending on the things that you have. Another thing that actually helped me is in terms of establishing deadlines. And that is why I think that working with professionals actually helped me. So, unlike when I do freestyle, I can write at my own leisure. I can write when I want. Okay, but sometimes working with professionals, because they want deadline, they have deadlines, they have times that they can submit whatever they want to submit. It helps me to now be able to at least know that by so and so time, I need to deliver 20 words, 1,000 words, 2,000 words, 5,000 words, 10,000 words, and then all the way to 40,000 words. So that deadline is very important to say that, okay, money is involved here. I don't want to lose the money, so I'm self-motivated. And that is where a community like Jolevi comes in, okay? You have a group of people that you are holding each other on. And so, and that is why even when you are developing your outline, it's important that you have somebody that you're accountable to, somebody that is checking up on your work. So you say that you say you want to write a biography about you want to write about the time that you were in school, maybe university. You write an outline and then share with the community. Say, so this is the outline that I have. And that is why I think that Jolevi as an organization needs to be a community where people trust. Okay, because of course we have issues of people stealing intellectual work, and so you need to establish yourself as a trusted organization that people can be accountable to, and they know that you have their back. Because accountability is very important. So if people can get the outline across to you, then they can even be helped in now breaking down whatever goals that they have, because ultimately it is the establishment of the deadline that actually works. Sometimes people say that they want to be able to, and you know, and it also helps in terms of making them realize that as experienced writers and talking to people who are just coming up, you can advise them and say, okay, the deadline that you provided is not very realistic. So instead of saying that you're going to write 5,000 words in 2 days, you are just starting. What if you write the 5,000 words in 2 weeks? It is more achievable. Okay, and so you can always help them in doing that. And that brings me to the point of saying that when you want to write, you need to realize that most people they don't do well writing when there's a lot of distraction. Okay. And for me, that is one of the reasons why I write very early in the morning, because now the kids are asleep. I don't have a lot of people disturbing me. Even in terms of social media, I don't have a lot of notifications coming on. Even in terms of work, I don't have emails just bumping in. In spite of that, I still make sure that at that time of the day, my internet is off and my phone is off. So my phone is on airplane mode and my internet is totally off, because then I can concentrate on what I want to do. Most of the time in the morning, I try to use it to write. And during the day, I try to do the research that I need to write. Okay, so it helps me not to need the internet at that point. Because if I know that at 5 o'clock, at 4:30, I'm going to be writing, then the things that I need to write, I already have them in place to write. I mean, it's just like cooking. You can't start cooking until you have your ingredients. So, at a particular time of the day, you go to the market and then you buy the ingredients that you want. When you get home, you now start cooking. So it's the same thing. It's the same approach I use to write it, to say that at this point, I know that I'm going to work chapter 3, so I do the research that I need to do. And then by early in the morning, I start using the resources that I have gotten. I start using that to write what I need to write. And sometimes, and that is why I think that there are certain tools that we have at our disposal right now that can that people in the past don't have, and it could either be a negative or a positive depending on how you view it. So one of the things that I tend to use now as is the writing prompts. Okay. Sometimes you get stuck and you start thinking that okay, I need to write now, but I'm losing my mojo. Um, how can I start writing? And that is where a tool like ChatGPT comes in. I mean, people say that ChatGPT will replace writers, but I don't think that is true. Um, ChatGPT is a tool that, if you know how to use very well, can help you to unlock your creativity. So sometimes you are writing, and it happens to me a lot. So especially when I write economic and political articles, one of the most difficult places that I get stuck is that opening line. So I have an idea I want to write. I have the end in mind. So what I want to establish in this writing is that I want people to realize that we are not treating our children well in terms of education. So the education is poor. We are spending so much time on NY, we are spending so much money on NYC. We are spending so much money on tertiary education. But at the basic, children, a lot of children are not even going into secondary school, which is already a problem. Okay, so I want everybody to see that. That is what I want everybody to see. So it means that I need to start systematically, but then I get stuck in the opening line. And that is because I always like my opening line to be catchy enough for people to read the rest. So, I mean, you can have fantastic writing, but if those first two lines are not great enough, people will not read it. Okay, so I spend a lot of time looking at how I can open my articles. And sometimes I'm looking for a story to tell. I'm looking for a fact to talk about. I'm looking for something catchy to talk about. And I'm just stuck. And I'm just asking myself, so if I'm able to write that first paragraph, sometimes it's just one sentence, I can flow, but I get stuck. So one of the things that I just do is I go to ChatGPT and then I ask ChatGPT. So I have this idea that I want to write. Is there a quote that talks about this? Is there a story that talks about it that you can tell me about? And then it provides it. Okay. Because ChatGPT is a library of billions of words that have been written over the decades. It can go into the archive and give me those stories. And so it gives me those stories. I have a story I have to write. Obviously, I have to reference. I have to provide reference to all these things, and then it just goes up, and then I start writing. So those prompts are very important. Prompts can be books. So for example, you want to write about your personal biography. I remember that when I was writing the introduction of Beyond Profit, I was asking myself, how exactly am I going to write this thing? How exactly am I going to start this book? And then I read, and then I went back to reading Elon Musk by what's the name of this guy? It's a book called Elon Musk before Isaac Watterson wrote the latest one. And then I saw how brilliantly it started. Okay, and then I realized, okay, yeah, I can use this style and start as well. So those are writing prompts. You need to be able to establish that at so points, if I get stuck, what exactly are the things I can go back to and then can unlock the creativity for me. Each writer will need to develop that. Okay. But once you develop that, you realize that writing block will no longer be the problem that you have. So it's important for each person to really be able to realize that writing block will always come, and then you can always overcome it by simply looking at the things that really propel you, and then just go ahead with it. So those are the thoughts that I have. I'm sure that there are lots more that I could share, and some of them could be unlocked by the question that I'm going to be asking. But I think that one thing that I wish I had when I started is having a writing community like you have in Jollibee. So that I mean I see a writing challenge that you have, and I think that a lot more people will benefit from participating in that writing challenge because it now puts you in the zone of writing. It now helps you to see that there are people that also want to write like you because sometimes you can feel lonely, especially if you don't have a community of people that get to comment on your post, like your post, provide feedback. It can be a little challenging because what tends to happen now is that you get discouraged and say, okay, maybe I'm not very good. Maybe what I'm writing is not really good enough. But if you have a community of people that are reading what you are writing, they are commenting on what you are writing, they are telling you what you can improve on, then it just gets better. So that community is always very good. In fact, I would say that what has inspired me the most to write is getting feedback from people on what I write. But then again, what kept me up to get it to a stage where people could comment on my writing simply because I just enjoyed writing. I just putting things out there. And that is why volume is very important. Okay. I mentioned at the beginning that there are some things that I think that my writing that I think are excellent, but which did not get as much as I thought. But because I have a lot of them out there, okay, it doesn't bother me that some of my writing did not get as much as I thought. What kept me up was that some of them still got, and then I can use those ones to really balance out the ones that were not so good. So the most important thing that I would say today is that you just need to write. Whether you feel like writing or you do not feel like writing, you just need to write. Because some of the things I think are not important are actually important. It makes me remember one of my friends, Victoria. So Victoria is a Lagos girl, right? Uh, all of a sudden she started saying, I mean, if people who have been in Lagos and have been in the dancing buses know that they can be very interesting. Okay. Work, Working with the conductor, seeing the way people behave, and then she started writing about it. And I mean, the first article posted actually. The first post went, she had about five. By the fifth article, she was getting 100 posts and she was getting 100 comments. And what now happened was that she now started reposting her whole post, which got 5 likes, and then started getting about 300 likes, simply because she was writing it. More eyeballs were on it, and then she was seeing the way people were responding to what she was writing. So you just simply need to start. You just simply need to write. You need to have a mindset of writing. And in no time, you realize that some of the things that you write are things that people really want to read. And that just makes you just want to write again. But you need to get to a point where even your writing, people have seen your writing. And people can now say that if she's as good as this, then the thing that she has written in the past would equally be as good. So it's a chicken and egg thing. If you don't write, people will not read what you are writing. So just keep writing. Thank you for listening.
Whoa, Mr. Tosin, thank you. I have a full book here of so many things that I got from what you said. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful gems that you dropped. And I was just hearing the fact that it's important to read. I think you established that almost throughout the conversation, from you reading when you were young to when you need an inspiration to start a line to research. So reading is very important, yeah. And I think I'm reminded again of how important it is to read. But in the same breath, it calls to mind how do you balance all these things? How do you do your 9 to 5? Do the research, be a father, be an husband, read, do the different things that in the same time frame. Because sometimes I think the excuse I give myself, of course, in my mind, I know that is the excuse now, is that I don't have the time. So how do you, do all of those things? I know the kind of work you do is serious, heavy work. So how do you balance all of those?
Okay.
How do you balance all of this?
So one of the things that I've realized is that there are some low-hanging times that we have throughout the course of the day that we think are not important, but which are quite important. So I remember a time when I just got to Lagos. I was in Lagos. Uh, I had the family I lived with, a relative. They were at Ipaja. I don't know if you know Ipaja. They were at Ipaja. I was working on the island, and so it was serious work. Because then I'll wake up. I mean, now I'm still in Lagos, but now I work remotely, and sometimes I still get to work anytime I want, really, because the kind of work that I do, I get to work from an office, which is really not my office. Okay, so I can work there, but so when people say that, so it's easy for you, I said, look, so when I came to Lagos, I was waking up 4 o'clock to resume work at 8 o'clock, and sometimes I will not leave work until 11. Okay, and then get home. I mean, I did it. I did it. So it was at that time that I realized that there are a lot of those times that I could do in terms of reading and also in terms of writing. So it was at that time that I was very heavy with audiobooks. Okay. So I download books on my phone, and then I listen to them throughout the journey. And then because I get to work early, okay, um, I take a nap, and then I make sure that at least I write something. And that's why I talk about consistency. So it's a little more about going to the gym. So if you go to the gym, and then of course I'm also someone that likes to exercise. So don't mind me when I talk about exercise and going to the gym. So many times when people come to me and tell me that they don't have time to do exercise, and they get to do every exercise on the weekends, and then throughout the week they don't get the time to do exercise. I say that all you just need to do exercise in the morning is just to do to do 25 push-ups. Obviously, people won't do 25 push-ups at the go, but if you do 10 push-ups, you need just five minutes maximum, okay, to do 5 push-ups. Everybody can have 5 minutes. In fact, when you wake up in the morning, you just need to spend 2 minutes to do push-up. You just need to spend 2 minutes on your bed having a bicycle exercise on your bed. There are simple things that can take 5 minutes, but if you do them constantly over 1 month, 2 months, you will see that you feel better in your body simply because you've just done 5 push-ups every day. And then what tends to happen is that if you do 5 push-ups for 1 week, you realize that you are not comfortable doing 5 push-ups. You want to do 10 push-ups because your body is not acclimatized to it, and then you can do it. It's the same thing with writing. So you say that I really want to write. Today I want to write 3 paragraphs. I want to write 2 paragraphs. I want to write 1 paragraph. I want to write 5 paragraphs. And then obviously, sometimes it is not even the continuation of the books that matters. What matters is that you are just writing that thing. Okay. because it's an habit that you now start imbibing over and over again. And one thing that I always tell people is that everybody misses a day of exercise. There's nobody that constantly does exercise forever. But what matters is that don't don't lose another day simply because you lose the first day. Okay. Because what tends to happen now is that you didn't write, you wrote day one, day two, day three, day four, day five. And then on day six, you did not write. Okay. What tends to happen to people is that because you did not write on day six, you feel so bad that you don't write on day seven, you don't write on day eight, you don't write on day nine. Okay. Now, you need to constantly say that, yes, I did not write on day six, but I need to quickly go back to writing on day seven. Okay. I didn't write on day six and day seven, but I must make sure that I write on day eight. Because once you miss 3 consecutive days of not writing, it becomes increasingly difficult to continue to write. So you can miss one day, is fine, but make sure that the next day you get back to writing by using those dead times that you might have throughout the course of the day. So people, I work with a diverse set of people, and I realize that people do not work 100% of the time. Okay. So I get on today now, and then my wife asks me, so how was your day? And then I start reading out the meetings I had. I start talking about the people I needed to check up on because I needed to be sure that they are doing the things right. I talk about the fires that I needed to kill in certain projects that I have. But what I tend to miss out are those times that I was really not doing anything. Okay. And it's a conscious effort to saying that, okay, so I'm actually not doing something at this time. So the times that I'm spending on Facebook and I'm reading people's posts, times I'm spending on Twitter and then responding to banter and reading about banter, because people don't get to realize that if you calculate the number of times I spend on social media, it runs into hours every week. And that is the hour that I can actually spend writing something. So to answer your question more precisely, there are dead times in the day that you could use that you are probably not aware of, but being aware of it makes you attune to it, and then you can start using that period to write, whether it's one paragraph or two paragraphs or one full page. You can use those times.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tosin. You've given us a formula to say that, and which I completely agree. There are a lot of dead times nowadays that if we don't sit down to think about them and maximize them, it would go to waste. For example, I realized that the time where I put on my system, open all of my Google Chromes, open my emails, call out the document I was writing on, I noticed that it takes me about, let's say, 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes window, I can listen to a podcast or something. So it became an habit. And before I knew, I'd taken in 15 minutes of information just by setting up work and all of that.
Let me say something in that respect. So
yeah,
we have I wrote a post recently talking about the fact that ideas do not wait for is it ideas that I mentioned or insights? Insights do not wait for us. When they come and we don't use them, they go away. Okay, sometimes you are working and then you quickly you really thought about something and say, okay, yeah, this is something I need to do. And having a pad on my phone, I use Google Keep a lot. Google Keep, I don't know how many people know Google Keep. Google Keep is like a notepad. It's a notepad that is one of the tools in Google, in Microsoft. Sorry, Microsoft. Is it Google or Microsoft? Google Keep. Yeah, it's Google Keep. It's actually Google. That once I have the ideas, now there are different tools that can do exactly the same thing. But Google Keeps helps me a lot to keep my insights. So there's some times when I don't have ideas. There's some things I just don't have. So I need writing things to keep my blog. But there are some times when I have so many ideas and I just open my Google Keep and just write them there. and then I can fetch them up later in the day. But if I don't write them down at that point, I lose them. I don't remember about them again. Okay, and that's why it's always good that when these ideas come to you, you quickly pen them down, because once you don't do that, they just go away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tosin. Okay, so the floor is open. Who has questions before I move to my next question? Daniel, Bumi, Liz, questions? Do raise up your hand if you have questions. I'm sure we have questions. We are just not. So let us know if you have questions. But while we wait for that, I love the fact that you spoke about volume. And volume is, as a student of, I love history, and of course, as a business developer, I know that churning out volume will help you become better. It's almost like practice makes perfect, yeah? So Nollywood is where Nollywood is today because we're churning out a movie per day. Until it became so good that the standard had to. The same thing for Bollywood and all of that, and China and all of that. So yeah, volume always does the trick. But this is where I struggle, yeah. When I write, 70% of my energy goes into me thinking, is this worthy of being written? It's not like I doubt my intelligence. At least fairly, I know that, yeah. But I just feel, can this stand beside what other people has written? Will people make sense of it? It's almost like a self-judgment that keeps me from even starting the writing process itself. So I have this fantastic idea. I'm saying, how will I put it? Then I'm an engineering student. I'm maths. I'm analytical. So English is not necessarily my strong suits. I was a C student in English and A plus student in maths. So sometimes all of the grammar and the words, I'm like, what's going on here? So English is not even a place that I'm like Badoshenki and all of that. So there's that. Okay, so is your grammar even that nice and all of that? So how does one deal with? And I presume it's probably common to a lot of new writers or people that don't necessarily write as the profession. They just write maybe to share their thoughts and all of that. So how do you advise that we combat this battle in our minds to say this is worthy of being written? Do I even understand English? Am I even that good? And all of this.
Okay, I mean, excellent question. And you need to start with knowing that the great writers all have that. It's called an imposter syndrome. See that you're not really as good as you think you have. And one person that I remember very vividly now is a guy called Thomas Friedman. If Thomas Friedman is a columnist in a lot of very reputable magazines and media outlets, and he mentioned that he felt that his writing was just not good enough. Okay, and so for many years he never put out his stuff. Okay. But one day he just decided that he needed to just put his opinion, because he felt very strongly about the war in Iraq, and he just needed to put it out there. And the way it was received surprised him a lot. Okay. And that is why I also want to reference the fact that there are certain things that you know that you think are commonplace, but which coming from you will do a lot of wonders. Okay. And that's why it's just good to just push your stuff out there. Okay. And that is where social media can be very helpful. So you push it down on social media, you get feedback from people, and then you are more encouraged to even write more, simply because you've seen that people are talking about the things that you are writing. People are saying that I love how you write. I remember somebody that I commented on his tweets, and the person was so surprised that I liked the tweet that the person said that now I think I'll write more, simply because if you say you like my writing, then who am I to say that I don't like my own writing? Okay, and this community is a good one, really, because what it does to you now is that it helps you see that there are people like you. And that's why representation is very important. One of the reasons why Barack Obama said he was going to become a president was because he realized he saw people like Martin Luther King, okay, being leaders of people. And then he felt that, look, I don't think my skin color matters simply because I've seen people like me who did wonders and are doing wonders. So why can't I be the president of the United States? And that's what happens to also writers as well. When you realize that we are not alone, we are not unique in what we are thinking. Other people have thought like this and they've overcome it simply by not being in their own shell, by opening up their writing. Then, and I always say that Africans need more writers, okay? Because most things that we read now are not by Africans. So it is tainted in a way, okay? Because I mean you could, and that's why I'd say that um, people that are not in Lagos, okay, can write about Lagos, okay? But there's a certain flair that people who live in Lagos will write about Lagos that will resonate better, simply because they have that lived experience. Okay. A lot of write-ups, a lot of things about Africa, and being written by people who do not have the lived experience of African societies. There are some things that we've experienced that will take us writing about it for it to have flesh. I mean, for instance, if somebody like Chinua Achebe had not written Things Fall Apart, okay, a generation of writers would not have been born. Okay. At that time, in fact, he wrote as a response to certain write-ups that he had seen in foreign magazines. That was why he wrote. Okay. And so it just shows to us that we just need to write. We just need to put our things out there. It really doesn't matter what we think. What matters is the reception that we are going to get. And if that reception is good, so why are we limiting ourselves by shortchanging ourselves?
Thank you very much for that. Um, that's very apt. And yeah, and I think that what I'll just add to it is, okay, so on the days of, because you mentioned Victoria, your friend, to say that the first post was 5 likes and then subsequent posts were 100 and all of that. So if you are still in your days of 5 likes and 3 likes, it's still okay. Just keep doing the volume, and very soon you get that. Okay, thank you very much for that. So Daniel has a question. He says, thank you for the tips and shares. Really, I think you're saying he's learning a lot. Okay, so the question, please, how do you succeed at writing longer works like books? I find difficulty in continuing and being able to piece the work together.
Okay,
So
good question.
I think maybe, okay, you understand that.
Yeah, good question. So that's where I talked about having an outline. Okay. Usually when you write for too long, you run out of things to write. I remember, so there's a guy called who has read Psychology of Money here?
I have it on my shelf. I was supposed to read it 2023. I've not read it, but it's on my shelf.
So I'm trying to get the name of the writer now. Psychology of Money. Morgan Housel, yes. So Morgan Housel. Yes, Morgan Housel. So I think Charles' hand is up. Are you asking a question or you want to contribute before I go ahead?
I'm actually sorry about that. That was an error. I was trying to indicate that I've read the book.
Okay. Yes. So what he mentioned in one article that I wrote about the book was that when he wanted to write the book, he looked at a lot of other books and he realized that they had very long chapters. And then he wanted to write like that. And then he realized that this really isn't his style, and that he prefers shorter chapters. Okay. That is how he's wired, and that is what will work for him. And so what he simply did was to write shorter chapters. So if you read Psychology of Money, it has like 10 pages, 12 pages, 15 pages for a single chapter. I think that sometimes we don't allow our style to shine through. Some people can write really long chapters, and some people it's about writing shorter chapters, and that is why I mentioned having an outline. So if you have an outline and you say, "This is what I want to write in chapter 1. This is what I want to write in chapter 2. This is what I want to write in 3." You can concentrate on having piecemeal writing. Okay. If you write and you think that you can stop at 3 pages, 5 pages, it's fine. Okay. If you think that another chapter would take you like 10 pages, 15 pages, it's fine. What matters is that the idea that you want to pass in that chapter is fine. Once you pass it, I don't think there's a lot of value in having a lot of word salad. I mean, once you think that you've gotten your ideas through, you can stop at that and just move on to the next chapter. But the idea that your chapter needs to be 30 pages, 40 pages, is not in line with all the styles of writers. Some do long writings, some do shorter writings, and that is fine. All that matters is that the idea that you want to pass gets across to your audience. Another thing that I will say about writing longer words is that even in your chapters, you can also break them down. And it has to do with saying that what exactly is the theme. And that is where the preparation comes in a lot, where you want to write, okay? Because it gives you a guideline on what you want to write. So you can say, for instance, say you want to write about, say that you want to write a biography about yourself, and maybe your chapter 1 has to do with your early days. So maybe your parents, really. Okay. Now you can break it down and say that in your first chapter, you are going to write about the places that the place that you were born. Okay, the circumstances of your birth. You're going to write about it. So that is already a plan of your chapter 1. And say that after that, you are now going to write about your parents and how they met. Okay, that is an outline of your chapter. And then you say that, okay, so after you've written about this, what you're not going to write, you're not going to write about how your parents met. Okay, so you already have like 3 things that you can use to merge the outline of how you were born. Okay, and I could give several examples. So sometimes what really stops us from writing is that we don't do a lot of preparation before we start writing. We rely a lot about our own creative process, but our creative process can be helped by us having a plan and saying that if I'm going to write about this, how am I going to structure it? And that is also where a tool like ChatGPT comes. It helps you structure your work. So you can go to ChatGPT and say that I want to write about a phone. Okay. And right now, what are the things that will make up the chapter of a phone that I can write about? And then it gives you an outline on what you need to do. And then you can further break it down and saying that, so for instance, in chapter 1 that I want to write now, I want to write about the screen. Okay. What is the outline of that screen that I can write about? And then it gives you ideas. And from that idea, you can now start breaking things down into what you want. There are some things that sometimes I look at a topic and I ask myself, how in the world? Okay, so I look at a book rather. So I have a book, and then currently the book I'm reading is about Lumumba, the former president of the DR Congo. And when I picked up the book, I was wondering, so this book is about 500 pages. What exactly am I going to read here? I mean, this should not be more than five pages. And then when I started reading the book, I realized that he actually broke it down. So he broke it down from when he was a kid to when he decided that he was going to become he was going to go into politics, to when he was in politics, and a lot of intrigues that happened around that area. The other time, before I read this book, I was reading about the semiconductor industry, and I was asking myself, why does it have to be? But when I looked at the way they broke it down, it was quite informative. And again, that is where a tool like ChatGPT can come in. It can help you structure your work, and then it can help you in terms of bringing out that creative flow that you need to do your writing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tosin. That was very well said. So I think the flip side of that question that I would like to ask is, before attempting to write a book, should you have written a number of blog posts or a number of short articles? Or do you think one can just kickstart by writing a book? Or do you suggest that the person starts with articles, blog posts, and all of that? Or do you think it's best you can do it anyway on a call?
I think that I think that many people start. In fact, before people start thinking about books, especially for people that I know, they start writing articles first of all. For that, in fact, I know people that their books are a combination of their blog posts that they've written. But I also know that there are some people that are just going to writing books. But one thing that writing articles help you with is that it provides you with a feedback. It provides you feedback on your writing and how well your books may be received. My latest book is The Heart of the Argument, and that book started because of the way people interact on social media. I realized that a lot of people really do not know how to have conversation. So people see that book and they think that it's about arguing, it's about knowing how to argue. But really, arguments in the etymology of argument is just conversation. You're having conversation, having viewpoints, and being able to reason it out. Is discussing. So it's not really the energetic, violent way we think about it. And it came about because I was on social media, I talk about this, and then I started educating people about fallacies, about biases, stuff like that, and then it came up, and then it became a book. So the easiest way to write a book is actually to have had a couple of articles in the past, a couple of write-ups in the past that people like. But it doesn't mean that you simply can't write a book, okay? Especially if what you want to write is about yourself, is about your experiences. You can go ahead and write a book, especially if you have a community like you have, where people can see the things that you can write, people can provide feedback about what you've written, and then you can go on from there.
Okay, well understood. So I've been hearing feedback on social media, and for my end, maybe the feedbacks that I get, I try to put some articles on LinkedIn, will be likes with no specific thing to work on. Do you get what I'm saying? So I put out a post and I have 60 likes and then maybe a few comments speaking to those that relate to maybe one or two things and all that. But I don't usually get specific feedback about what I've written. So the feedback you'll be talking about, is it something that you extract from those comments that were dropped? And then if there's no comment dropped, then there's no feedback.
Okay. Yeah. So the feedback I'm talking about is in terms of people responding to your post in comments. Okay. So people say, so for instance, a lot of people do not really comment very much about your writing, okay, than the ideas that you have shown forth in the writing. So people say things like, people expand on what you've written. Okay. What that says to me is that people relate to what I've said, and it has been communicated in such a way that people can digest it and relate it to their own life. Okay. But in terms of really drilling down how you've written, you will need a more established community like yourself to actually be able to provide that. But the feedback I'm talking about is in people being able to relate to your work. Let me give an example of what happens in the film industry. So there are two ways of providing feedback in the film industry. The first feedback is by the box office revenue. So it means that people really like the movie. People like the way the acting was. People like the directing. People like the picture. And they're willing to take out their money and give it to you to say, well done for a good job. Okay. The other way is in terms of the industry awards. Okay. Industry awards, your colleagues, professionals in the industry now say that this film that you've done deserves an award of the best actor, deserve the award of the best cinematography, deserve the award of the best picture. And sometimes you realize that what the professionals have given an award to, you ask yourself, what exactly have they done? But really, what matters more is that people see your work and they relate to your work. Okay, so it gives an idea of, okay, so maybe this writing style that I have, I should continue that writing style. Okay. And then a community like Juleview can now help you refine it, make it presentable. Because again, a lot of writers that write on social media, that write on blogs, they really don't know that there are certain ways that you need to present what you've written in form of a book that would make it get published. I mean, writing an article is a far cry from writing a book, you know. But establishing that audience is important. For instance, the Act of the Argument that I've written, I've sold over 200 copies right now. And I sold them simply because of the audience that I've been able to cultivate on social media. Okay, so that has helped me to say that, look, I'm writing I'm not writing. Obviously, I'm writing because I like writing, but now I realize that I can make money from writing, so that helps, you know. So people really need to be able to at least put the things out there and see what feedback people get in terms of what they write. When people comment on your stuff and they even expand on it and they say it's educative to them, you start realizing that maybe you did not waste your time.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the explanation of what the feedback meant. Thank you very much. We've spent so much time, but of course it has been worth every bit of it. Thank you, thank you. I just my book is full for all the different things that you said, and maybe the takeaway for me, part of my mind was looking for a silver bullet when I was coming to this conversation. Like, Tosin just give me a silver bullet, and then by tomorrow I will have finished my book. But again, you've reiterated that a writer writes. You just have to. You learn to write by writing, and you don't have to feel like it. You just sit down, write it, put a routine around it, put a structure around it, and it makes sense. One thing again that I'm copying from you, Mr. Tosin, I hope you know that we are coming back for you in the Jollibee community. You have so much that we can glean for, so please be expecting us back. One
No
thing that
problem.
you said that I'm going to adopt, thank you, is you said you publish the list of books that you read in the coming year. So at the back of my mind, the analytical part of my mind is saying, okay, so that's accountability. If I say I'm going to do this, okay, maybe I'm telling quote unquote the public to hold me responsible for this. But how do you do that? How do you write down? I know how to write it down, but how do you select the books that you read? How do you stay by it? And then what's usually your success matrix? How do you ensure that, okay, at the end of so
Okay,
far
so
reading is critical to a writer?
yeah. So this is something I do every year, right? I do it. It's a ritual. So from the beginning of the year, I'm already having ideas about books. So I go on social media. Somebody saying this book is excellent. This book is very good. I just read it. I just added to the stack. And that is why Google Keep for me is very important. So if you look at my Google Keep now, you see a lot of things that I do. So it's like so the Google Keep is like, I don't know if you can see this. This like a sticky notes. You have different sticky notes that you can use. So there are different places that you can write. Okay. So there is a particular sticky notes on Google Keep that I have the list of books that I want to read in 2024. Okay, so when I see a book that I like, I just dump it there. When I see another book that I have, I just dump it there. So that when I'm now ready, I can now go to it and then I can sort them out by categories. But I always say that it doesn't mean that I will follow through that list religiously. Because what I tend to do now is sometimes I just realize that my interest is in a particular book that I just need to read now. I don't say because I already have a list of books that I want to read that I must just read them all together. I always put room for some adjustments. So there are some, if you go to my to read books of 2023, there are some books that I've not read. And there are some books on that list. There are some books that are not on that list that I've read, you know. But having that list already programs my mind to saying that these are the books that I have to read for the year. And sometimes when I just think about the next books to read, sometimes you want to read, but you don't know what to read. Okay, when that kind of time happens, I just go to that list and say, okay, so which of these should I read now? And then I pick the book and then I start reading. So that helps me a lot.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So finally, rapid fire questions. Audiobooks or physical books?
Audiobooks or physical books? Or
Yes.
you mean
Which one do you prefer?
electronic books? Or electronic books? There are
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
there are three categories.
Yes. Audio, electronic, hard copy. Which one?
Hard copy.
Which one is your best? Hard
Hard
copy.
copy.
Okay. Hard copy. African writers or foreign writers?
Okay. Foreign writers.
We don't hear you, sir.
Foreign writers.
Foreign writers. Okay. Business books, religious books, or relationship books?
Business books.
Business books.
Business
Is that what
books.
you said?
Business
Okay.
books.
Biography. Okay. Biography or I don't even know the other type. Uh Biographies or historical books?
Biographies.
Okay. Plantain or salad?
Plantain.
Plantain. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Tosin, for spending your evening with us. Wow. It's 9:40 and it was full. I really love the fact that it was relatable. Mr. Tosin was relatable and there were a lot of action steps that we could take. We appreciate you. We say thank you for your time and we are saying we are coming back because this community is still pretty young. I think we are technically about 41 days old. So
Oh,
there's a lot of yes. We started with a challenge, and our challenge
nice.
is about rounding up. So there's a whole lot that we can learn, and then we are coming to meet you to learn, because you've encouraged us that Africa needs more writers. We need to tell our story more. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, sir. And I want to say a very big thank you to everybody that joined the call. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this, for spending time with us. We really do appreciate you. And like I said, today's the 41st day of our 45 days challenge. And it's been a stretch. There were some days I didn't feel like showing up. I showed up because, okay, Titi, you are in charge, you have to show up. But fantastic things has been done in the last 40 days. Articles that has been written, so many words has been written, hours has been poured into ensuring that we do something beautiful. And yeah, it's coming to an end, but would soon start another challenge, and we'll be looking forward to seeing more people. All right, thank you very much, and do follow us on social media. This masterclass was streamed to YouTube. Should you need to have a rewatch, I would recommend that you rewatch it. A lot of gems were dropped. Please check our YouTube channel and you find it there. Thank you very much, and do have a lovely, lovely night rest. Bye-bye.